Good morning everybody, בוקר טוב לכולם. היו כמה דקות של בעיות עם התקשורת, אבל עכשיו זה יסתדר. אז הנושא של... The topic of today, as I wrote, is the yoga versus the direct path, the path of understanding, the path of inquiry. And Sri Bagavath will start a few minutes or more with his introducing the subject. And in the second part, we will move to question and answer. Okay? So Sri Bagavath.
Namaste to all of you. Today, because of the computer, we have to be a bit late. Anyhow, we are successfully starting our session. Actually, what is yoga and what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is some understanding according to me, but in olden days, enlightenment is considered to be a huge one, not within our hand. But presently, according to my view, enlightenment is very simple and easy. It is related to our day-to-day life. And in the previous occasion also, I have said something about enlightenment and the liberation. And today's topic is related to yoga. What is yoga and what is enlightenment? What is the relationship between the two? And yoga, we all know, yoga means a union. We have to unite something. Yoga comes from the word Sanskrit. Sanskrit means, in the Sanskrit language, yoga means joining together, merging together. That is yoga. So what we are going to merge, what we are going to unite. So here we know our mind is creating many nuisance, many problems in day-to-day life or in spiritual world or anything. Our mind gives trouble. So we have to set the mind in a good position. So keeping our mind in a good position is the root meaning of yoga. For that, many meditational practices may be there, many worship, many meditation. In such a way, we are doing many things for the union of our mind, to constrain our mind in a good state. We are doing meditation, yoga, and anything. So the net result is that we have to unite our mind. We have to free from the distraction of our mind. For that, we are doing many practices and training and anything, everything towards that. So here, we have to find out what is the relationship between the yoga and meditation. And in course of time, we can arrive to a correct and better conclusion. And as an introduction, I have told something about yoga and meditation, yoga and the liberation, and yoga and the enlightenment. So now you all can share or question you can put forward any question, or you can share your idea with related to the yoga and the enlightenment. And we can proceed with the discussion along with your contribution also. And we may enter into the contribution, enter into the discussion. So basically, I putting some formal introduction, and this is enough. And afterwards, we can proceed and we can find out for ourselves what is the actual meaning, actual relationship between the yoga and the enlightenment. And you all proceed with the questions or discussions. Lanier, can you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. I hear you very well.
And you can ask your friends, or you yourself can contribute something towards the topic, and we can go.
So Sri Bagavath has finished his introduction into the subject, and now it is open for everybody to ask questions and to inquire together about what is yoga and what is the path of enlightenment in the eyes of Sri Bagavath. And for myself, I can say that it was very confusing for me many years. The path of understanding and the path of yoga, they were mixed together, and I could not differentiate one of the other. The learning with Sri Bagavath and the meetings with him made it very clear what is what. So I'm not confused anymore about the path of yoga. In the path of yoga, you can achieve many things if you go in the path of yoga, but the only thing you cannot achieve is enlightenment. So, it's the paradox, because the whole way of yoga is supposed to take us to enlightenment, but in the final analysis, it can only lead us to finer and finer states of mind, but not to the freedom that we all want. So for me, the meeting with Sri Bagavath, it made it all clear that the path of yoga, I can be an advanced yogi, but still without enjoying the full liberation. And the one that is going in the path of liberation, the path of understanding, he doesn't necessarily has to go through all the paths of yoga and the asanas and the meditations and the pranayama and all that. So this was the way for me.
Lanier, can you explain, please, short, what is yoga for Sri Bagavath? Just, I didn't get it fully, I think.
It's a very good question. Maybe Sri Bagavath, you want to answer this yourself. In your eyes, what is yoga?
So preliminarily, I have to say something about the liberation and the enlightenment, and we can connect yoga with the liberation and enlightenment. For example, we take our hand. This is our hand. With the help of the hand, we can do many things. I can type, I can write, I can do many work with the help of this hand. This is one thing. So, can we feel our hand? We can feel our hand. The feeling of our hand is one thing. Doing with the hand is another thing. So in this way, we are having two part of working in our mind also. This is physical thing. The physical thing we can have, the feeling is one thing and doing is another thing. In this in the mind also, we are having two sides. Just like the hand, the mind is also having two sides. The one is the feeling type, another is doing type. Doing and working and planning, everything is work. And feeling is another thing. So what we feel is only the expression of our mind. For example, when we are in a good situation, we feel happiness. So we can feel the happiness of our mind. When we are in trouble, we feel some distress in our mind. So the some good thing and bad thing we receive, we recognize, we feel. There are some difference, some enjoyment and the hatred. For example, we feel good in a good situation, but we feel bad in a bad situation. We feel we are happy and we feel in distress. So both we feel through our mind. So the both things are happening just like a feeling. This is natural happening. We cannot create happiness. We cannot create the pain of our mind willfully. So in this given situation, it happens naturally. We need not. We cannot create. We cannot create a sorrow. We cannot create a happiness. If it is possible, everybody will create always happiness in our mind. But it happens naturally. Sometimes we have sorrow, sometimes we have happiness. It happens according to the situation, according to the facing of things. So that's a natural functioning of our mind. And if you want to do something, if you want to plan something, that is in your hand. So the planning part, the doing part is in our hand. And the happening part, the feeling part is not in our hand. So this is the two section functioning in our mind. And actually, we are trying to capture a good thing because we have planned many things, just like the other work of our day-to-day life. We plan our mind to have a good emotion. We want to retain a good emotion within ourselves forever. So we plan for something. And this is, for this, we are having many practices, yoga and other thing. Through creating some yoga and other thing, you can design your functioning of our mind to a certain extent. You can through some meditation, you can create some emotion within yourself, unconsciously or consciously happening within our mind. So as a beginner, it is good. All meditation, all yoga practices are good. But afterwards, you can easily find out, even though we are trying to do some good thing, to create many good emotions within ourselves, you can very easily find out all emotions are not under our control. Even though we practice meditation, practice yoga, we can practice, we can do something. But at the the happening is not under our control totally. It will deceive ourselves. And it will come naturally according to the situation. But practicing yoga is in our hand, but the happening of our emotion is not in our hand. That happens naturally. Sometimes it may happen as we expected, but most of the times it will not be like that. But for the beginners, it is very good. All yoga, meditation, all practices are very, very good. Then only we can know something about the functioning of our mind, the happenings of our mind. Afterwards, we have to understand the feeling part, the emotion part, the happening part comes naturally on its own. We have no work on the happenings of the psychological system, the happenings of the emotions. So all happening, all emotions comes on its own way. So we have no work upon the happenings of the our mind. So as a beginners, as a beginning, as an introduction, we can practice something, practice some yoga, some meditational practices. There are many kind of meditations. All meditations are giving some way as an introduction to the spiritual world or the real world. But afterwards, no practices, no yoga is needed, because if you understand the natural functioning of our psychological system, the natural functioning, the natural functioning part, the living part, the emotional part, that is the real part of our mind. The real part is not in our hand. If you understand the later part, the working part also has to join with the living part, the join with the emotional part, join with the happening part. So the doing part is in our hand. The doing part has to merge with the happening part. So that is the real yoga. So if you understand, if you allow the happening part, if you're able to give total freedom to the happening part, naturally the doing part merge with the happening part. The doing part of our mind gets united with the natural happening part, the emotional part of our mind. So that is the real yoga. The real yoga has to function throughout our life. Then only we unite within ourselves. The union of the joining and union of our mind within itself will happen permanently and naturally.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Okay, I have several questions from what you said. Okay, I have two questions. I for the last year, I think I understand what you say, and I didn't do any spiritual practice. I mean, I used to sit in satsang, like for 15 years, I used to sit in satsang. And then my teacher died. And for several years, I did nothing. I just was sitting under the tree for many, many hours a day. I mean, I'm very active in the world, but several hours a day, I was sitting under the tree. And I think I didn't interfere in my inner world. And but then the corona started, and in the corona, I find myself doing a lot of spiritual practice, meditation, spiritual courses. It happened. Like, and still I don't interfere, because this is what is happening. It seems that it is happening in the outside world, but it's not under my control. It's just the corona started, and all this spiritual practice came. I didn't do anything for it. It suddenly I see that is in my life. Suddenly I do spiritual practice. So when you talk, I say, I want to ask you, this is not an external action, like spiritual practice, because you say you can do anything in the external world. So this is not considered as external action, like meditation. It's not in my inner world, it's in my outside world. I do action, like I go to work, I go to meditation.
But anyhow, we are planning, we are practicing. So all practicing is a conscious doing. So we are consciously meditating, consciously sitting under a tree, consciously doing something. So all I am not criticizing. It is good. It is well and good. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, it is a doing. It is we are doing something.
But I don't choose to do it. This is, you know, for example, now I don't sit under the tree. Now I'm very, very active in the world. I'm very busy. I'm very active. So now I don't sit in the tree. Now I see television because, you know, now this is what is happening. I don't sit in the tree anymore, but I do meditation. Why? I don't know. This is what is happening. I don't interfere. The energy doing this. I don't have an
happening, I differentiate. For example, when we face a good situation, we feel some happiness. The happiness comes on spontaneously. We have no contribution on our part. The happiness comes on its own. So in this way, when we meet a some worst situation, we have a sorrow. The sorrow comes on its own. We have no connection. So that is alone is happening. So what comes on its own without any contribution of ourselves, what is happening, that only is happening. So other thing, we made it happen. Other thing we made, we make it happen. That is work. All the thing, we do something on our part with the help of our work.
You think that the fact that I'm doing meditation now, it is because of me?
Yeah.
Or because
of we
life?
do meditation, we do practices. So but the result of meditation is not in our hand. The result may happening.
Yes.
The result, some good emotion or bad emotion, yes, or some boredom, anything may happen. The happening is not in your hand. That yes, is the real thing. So what is the result of your doing is the natural thing. But the doing is in our hand. We may plan our doing, but we cannot plan the happening. We can plan the plan the result. The result will come on its own. We have no connection. It may some way or other later, but we are not creating that. So sometimes, for example, we may do some meditation, but we may not be interested. Without interest, we may do meditation, but at the same time, the result may be good. You may not expect such kind of good result out of this uninterested meditation, but even though you are involving the uninterested meditation, some good result may come. Sometimes you may with the interest you may do meditation, but even though you do meditation with good interest, some good result may not come. So the result is not in our hand. The result alone is the happening.
Okay, so I want to ask just to see if I understand. So if I do meditation, but I don't care for the results, like I do meditation and then I can become very sad, depressed, fear. Okay. So this is what is happening. So is it okay? Like I'm doing spiritual practice, but I don't care for the results. I can feel bad, I can feel good. This is okay.
Okay.
So then what? Is it okay to practice like this?
What I am trying to convey is that comparing with the natural happening, the natural emotion, whether it is coming within ourselves, everything is natural. So what is coming, that is the happening part, that is the emotional part, that is natural. So what we are doing is artificial. It is a secondary one. Whether it may be a good work, whether it may be a bad work, whether it may be meditation, whether it may be yoga, whatever it be. But whatever doing is our doing part. So what is happening, that is the real part. So the
Yes.
real part may be good or bad, something may be interesting or not interesting, but it is real. So the real part is our emotional part, the real part is the happening part, the real part is the living part. So in our mind, the living part is one thing, and the planning part is the another thing. So the living part is the main thing. The living part may be good emotion or bad emotion, whatever it be. The living part, if you able to recognize the living part as the real thing, the other thing is secondary. It becomes secondary.
Okay,
So
so
when
yes. So I
so
want to,
when
yeah.
okay.
So I want to just to see if I understand. So
Mm.
is it okay that I make meditation as long as I know that the real part is what is happening in my inner world? It's like I'm not attached to the results of the meditation. I do meditation because this is now what is happening in life, but I'm not depend on the consequences, on the results of the meditation. So in this case, this is okay to do spiritual practice, not to be dependent on the result.
But
Just to do it. What?
anyhow we are having some expectation to have some good emotion out of the meditation. That is the each and everybody will have like this. You want some good emotion out of this meditation, then only we do meditation. Otherwise, we won't do meditation. If we all meditation creates some sorrow and suffering, who will go to meditation? So we expect some good emotion, good enjoyment, good feeling. Then only we go to meditation. So that there is nothing wrong about it, but at the same time, the result is not in our hand. The result is not in the hands of the meditation.
But I want to ask. In the same way, it's not natural. Like you say, in the inner world, it is natural to feel happy, to feel sad. So in the same way, it is not natural in the external world that sometimes you do meditation, sometimes you don't do meditations. Like life creates situations, like create what is happening. It's not only, I think, I'm asking you, it's not only me who create things in life. I think also life creates things, situations. So it is not the same like in the inner world, I don't have control, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. In the outer world, also I don't have control, sometimes spiritual practice, sometimes not spiritual practice. Well, I'm asking you, is it not okay not to interfere also in the outer world? Not to interfere, to accept what is happening in the outer world. Like to think it is not in my hand. This is what's happening in my inner world. This is what's happening in my external world. Like to meet them both in the same attitude.
So outer world, we can expect something, even though something may not happen, we may try, we can fight for that, we can struggle for that to make it happen. But in the psychological world, what we feel is already over. We can feel only what is already over. We cannot do anything what is already over. So psychological world is not within our hand. So we cannot plan for that. We can plan, we can think like that, but it is like just like giving treatment to a dead person. What is the use of giving treatment to a dead person? In this way, each and every moment, the psychological emotion comes and it disappears. After the disappearance of the emotion alone, we recognize the appearance of the emotion. So, psychologically, we have no work at all. And the happening part is moment by moment new. We cannot deal with the old thing. So whatever thing we feel we want to do something about the psychological thing, it is already over. We have no work about towards that. But at the same time, just like other thing, The meditation is a good work. Yoga is a good work. You can do to your full satisfaction of yourself. You can do and go on with the meditation, go on with meditation practices and other things. But at the same time, we have to understand the living part of our mind, the natural part of our mind. It is already free, and if you are able to recognize the natural part of our mind, we have to submit the working part to the natural part, natural living part. The submission of our working part to the natural living part of our mind is the real yoga.
אני חושב שזה פיידלין, אני לא בטוח.
Hello, unable to follow.
Hi, it's Danny. Do you hear me? Lanier, do you hear me?
כן, שומעים אותך, דני. Sri Bagavath, do you hear Danny?
I can hear him.
Good.
He can continue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I want to ask about the state of understanding. After when you get to the understanding, what is the evolution of that state? So once you got to the point of not doing anything, once you got the point of not entertaining or cooperating with any thought or emotion, at that point, how is that state evolves? It's not the same over time, right? I mean, not change. I'm not talking about changing. I'm talking about evolving, deepening. There are level of understanding, first level of understanding, and then more and more understanding. Can you talk about this part, please?
So we have discussed about two sections of our mind. The one section is the natural happening, the feeling part. The other section of our mind is the doing part. The doing part is always have some idea, this is good, this is bad. If I want to do something, I should not do something. So in this way, it is always going on planning. So the planning is in the second part. The first part, that is a natural part, that is a living part of our mind. That is the all emotions, all feelings, everything comes in the first part of the mind. That is the happening part. So the second part, the planning part, will have many duties with the world. Without the help of the second part of the mind, we cannot do anything in the world. So all our duties are related to the second part of our mind. But the second part will not have any duty towards the first part of our mind, the emotional part of the mind. So now, what is the relationship between the emotional part and the intellectual part or the planning part? So the planning part has to recognize the natural functioning of our first part, because it has no work. Because when it is already over, then only we know the appearance of the first part. So after the disappearance of the first part, the second part recognize the appearance of the first part. So when it is already over, it has no duty to correct the dead thing or correct the disappeared thing. So the second part has the duty to recognize I have no duty towards the first part. I have no duty to the emotional part. So the planning part or the intellectual part has to understand I have no duty to the first part or the happening part. So if it has the understanding like that, it will, the first part and second part is able to go together. It function together. So some harmony will happen, the first part and second part. So because the first part is the liberated part, we cannot control the first part. It is happening. We cannot design the first part. It is beyond all our control. It is beyond all our expectation. It is a natural part. That is a living part. So what we, even in this moment alone, for each and every moment, the first part is living, the second part is also living. But at the same time, the first part is living without the grip of the second part. The first part, each and every moment we feel something. The feeling part is, it is a living part. The living part is always living. It is, even though it is living momentarily, moment by moment it is new. Some new happening, the new emotion, the new feeling, the new happening, everything is happening moment by moment. So for that, the second part has no action. The second part has to recognize. So the first part need not recognize anything. So it is not a planning part. The first part is a natural part. It comes naturally. The second part alone has to recognize the nature of the first part, the nature of the second part. The second part has to submit, it has to limit itself not to interfere with the happening of the first part. So the first part will comes and disappears moment by moment. It is new, just like some light or anything. The light, even all light are moment by moment new. All sounds are moment by moment new. So in this way, the first part is moment by moment new, but it is also a living thing. And the second part has no duty towards the living part. And the second part has to do many duty towards the world, towards the many things, but it has no duty towards the first part. So all understanding with related to the second part.
Yes, thank you. Just to complete. So basically, you are saying, if I understand correctly, that all this understanding is part of the second part. And the first part is just happening, and there is no understanding there because understanding is a function of the mind.
Yeah. So the first part is natural part. Some good thing may happen, bad thing may happen, anything may happen. It has no planning. It comes naturally. So that is the liberated part. That is the living part. But it has no enlightenment. Enlightenment is not related to the first part. Enlightenment is related to the second part. The second part is the planning part. The planning part has to understand, if it understand correctly with related to the functioning of the first part, that is enlightenment. So the second part has to understand, I have no duty towards the first part. So this is the enlightenment.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
In the second part, I understand.
Okay. Very nice.
אז יש למישהו עוד שאלה בנושא הזה של היוגה והרע, שחרור?
Are you asking to me?
No, I was just telling them that if they can ask questions if they want in this topic of.
Okay.
So I have something, Sri Bagavath.
Okay. Okay.
So from what I understand, there is the first part of the mind, which is the feeling part, is like a kid, right? Just like a child. It is natural. It is. It's not planned, and it's uncontrolled. And the second part, which is the planning and the doing, it is like the adult part, right?
Yeah, correct. The first part is the child itself. It is the child. It is innocent.
So the second part, which is the adult, so rather he understand the mechanism of how things work, and then he does not try to control the first part of the child, or he can understand that he has some, like in yoga, that it has control, and it can manifest, it can affect the first part by doing some practices or by living in a certain way. If I get up in the morning, I do yoga, I do meditation, I try to avoid negative things and to read only what I want to. So in this way, I affect the feeling part, the natural part. Because otherwise, as you say, if it doesn't have any effect, nobody will do that. Everybody will just live their life without doing anything. So
for the beginning, all meditation is good. I am also encouraging meditation. That is good, but it has some limitation. So afterwards, we have to switch on to the other level, the level of understanding, the level of that we have no work towards the first part. The first part is the natural part. For that, it has to function naturally.
And you also said that whatever we feel in our mind is already the past. It's already an outcome, right?
So whatever let it be past, but at the same, we feel in the present. So the feeling is always in the present. It will not refer to the past. So the idea may be past, but the experience is present. We cannot experience the past. All experience are in the present.
Right. But in that way, you cannot affect the present because the present is an outcome of what happened, right?
But we may think like that, but at the same time, whether it may be related to the thinking or anything, but at the same time, it is a free expression of something. The free expression of something is the present thing. That is the living thing. The living thing comes and disappears. No, we cannot dissect. We cannot analyze what is this, what is that. We cannot analyze. But even after the disappearance alone, we analyze what is this or what is that. But at the same, each and every moment is a living moment. It is a momentary moment, comes and disappears. After the disappearance alone, the second part comes and dissect everything and inquire everything. Why it happens like this? Why it happened? Why? What is the functioning of this one? So all this happening after the disappearance of the first thing. So that is the functioning of the second part. So even before that, the first part comes and disappears. But the disappearance, disappearance means it will not exist again. So moment by moment, the new thing comes. The old thing goes away, the new thing comes. So it is also the first part also living permanently. It is not, even though it is dying momently, moment by moment it is dead and gone. But it, the moment by moment it comes as a new way, in a new form. It comes. So that is a living thing. It is not the dead thing. Even though in the past it is go away, presently it is living. Even though past has gone, present has come.
So can you affect the first part, which is the natural part? Can you affect it?
So we cannot, it is not within our control. So, but because we are aiming about the past thing, that thing alone we are aiming. But when we aiming the dead thing, the new thing has come. So we are not aiming the new thing. So mainly the second part has to understand we have no work towards the first part. The first part we have to give freedom to the first part as a natural part. We have many duty to the external world, and according to the circumstances we have to do something. But naturally it comes. Sometimes it may have in the form of sorrow. It may be in the form of a good emotion. It may be in the form of some enjoyment, some joy, or anything, happiness. But it is natural. We have no work towards that. We need not try to eradicate sorrow. We need not catch hold of the happiness. We have no work. The second part has no work. So if we give total freedom to the first part, it is happening naturally. If we have no work like that, it will function naturally, freely. Then the second part also join hands with the first part. So then only some healthy mind will be there.
So is there any relationship between those two parts?
Yeah.
Connected?
So you have to recognize the greatness of the first part. The second part has to recognize the greatness of the first part. You'll join hands with the first part. Then you'll easily go along with that.
Mm-hmm. So does yoga and practices have any effect?
So everything is, as a preliminary step, we can go on to yoga. As a beginner, we can do.
Wow.
Afterwards, the very understanding will make you have a good life.
Mm-hmm. But why will you do that in the first place? Why would you try to cultivate anything?
Because we have to gather knowledge. Otherwise, because the first part we need not have any training. It is natural thing. It is not under our control. But the second part is it's the intellectual part. We have to gather knowledge. We have to have some experience. Everything is good for the second part. So to get some good knowledge, you have to go some practices, some experiences. Then only it can have the correct understanding, correct relationship, correct way of action. Then only it can have the correct idea. So till then, we can go for meditation or practices, anything. We have to do something.
Mm-hmm. So there is a kind of necessity or a need. There is a need to sharpen the tool, right? What you're saying, to make it a bit sharper, or
so gather knowledge, not sharpening. So gathering knowledge about what is what, we have to understand. To create the understanding, we have to have many experience in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
It is not sharpening, some gathering some idea, good, the correct idea,
Okay.
correct conclusion.
Because some people, they didn't do any practice in their life, and they're just the situations in their life made them understand the nature of things, and they didn't study, they didn't do meditation, it wasn't necessary for them.
But we need not compare with them. their lifestyle is like that, but our lifestyle is like this. So we have to work, we have to go along with according to our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sometimes somebody may be naturally, somebody may be like this, as you said.
Sri Bagavath, sorry,
Okay.
my internet connection disappeared.
Okay. Next meeting also, we can deal with the first part and second part in some other examples.
I have a question. Is it done?
Okay, you can have.
It's supposed to end at 9. I don't know.
This is the end of.
Lanir, this is the time we need to finish. Like,
No. You can continue. You can continue.
Okay. So my question is about how the second part should consider the first part, because many people are giving a lot of putting a lot of consideration on the, or if they're afraid of something or something makes them feel bad, so they stop, they don't do it. And they say, okay, it makes me feel bad, so I will not do it. And from what I understand, my notion from what you're saying is like, and I don't know if I'm right, is that the second part should be also liberated from the first part. Like, he should do what he needs to do or what he wants to experience, regardless even of what the first part is going through. If he feels sad or afraid, or he should anyway do it. Of course, if it's possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but it's too hard. But like, okay, I guess you understand my question. I hope.
So the second part has the duty to the external world, but the second part has no duty towards the first part. It has to give total freedom to the first part. Otherwise, liberation is all related to the first part alone. The second part will not have any liberation. The second part will have duty. It may have enlightenment. Enlightenment is related to the second part. Enlightenment is not related to the first part. First part will have liberation. Enlightenment is related to the second part. Liberation is related to the first part. So the second part alone has to understand something, that for the beginning it may, but always it has some work towards the external world. It is permanently, it has some duty to the external world, and it will continue. It will never end. But it has to end its work towards the first part. It may, in the beginning, it may think it has to control the first part under its grip. But in course of time, it has to, in various ways, it may try, but it will meet failure alone. And then you have to understand that it has no work towards the first part. Till then, you have to work. So after after many years of work or many times of work, then only it comes to a conclusion like this. It has no work towards the first part. The first part is not under our control.
Okay. And when you say duty, what do you mean? Like paying the bills, cleaning the house, this is duties, or even go to a vacation, it's a duty?
What do you mean? Yeah, enlightenment? What's the meaning of enlightenment, you ask?
No, what is the meaning of duty? When you say duty?
Duty means responsibility. Responsibility towards the external world. For example, you want some food, you have to work for the food. That is your duty, that is your responsibility. The responsibility and duty is same.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Lenir?
Maybe I will say some words in Hebrew. So
Okay.
just to that people will understand what is the first part and second part. We
So you demark something, and we can clarify further in the next Sunday also.
Okay.
And you can say something in Hebrew.
Okay. אז שרי בגבת דיבר על החלק הראשון ועל החלק השני שמרכיבים את הבן אדם. החלק הראשון זה החלק שנולד ראשון, זה החלק שאנחנו נולדים איתו. זה הרגשות והתחושות שבאים באופן ספונטני בהתאם למצבים השונים שאנחנו חווים בחיים. אז בהתאם אם אתה קרה לך משהו משמח בחיים, מיד עולה רגש טוב, רגש חיובי, ואם קורה לך משהו פחות טוב בחיים, מיד עולה לך רגש שלילי. ואתה לא עושה שום דבר בשביל שהרגשות האלה יעלו, הם פשוט עולים ובאים באופן ספונטני. זה החלק הראשון, החלק שגם מורכב באופן כרונולוגי, הוא מגיע ראשון. החלק השני זה החלק של האינטלקט, זה החלק שמגיע אחר כך, שעליו, שהוא יש לו דעות לגבי מה אמור להיות ומה לא אמור להיות, והחלק הזה הוא בעצם זה שגורם את הסבל לבן אדם. אז זה פחות הרגשות שהם בתנועה ובשינוי מתמיד, זה יותר החלק שמאמין שהדברים צריכים להיות כאלה ולא אחרים מבחינה פנימית. וזה החלק ששרי בגבת אומר, זה החלק השני, וזה החלק שצריך להבין שאין לו עבודה בעולם הפנימי, שאין לו שום אחריות על מה שקורה בעולם הפנימי. אז, okay, so I said a few words to clarify the first part and the second part. And you want to finish now?
You can, in the next meeting also, you can previously, you can advancedly, you may also think what is the first part and what is the second part. But that is the crux of the all spiritual world. So if you understand the crux of the spiritual world, everything will be in our hand. So the main thing is the first part and the second part. What is the relationship between the two? What is the nature of the first part? What is the nature of the second part? Actually, mainly the second part has to understand itself, understand the limitation of itself, then only it will not giving trouble to the first part. If it is stops struggling to the first part, it will merge with the first part. So that is the crux of the everything. You yourself can think more and more till the next Sunday, and we can further clarify, further develop the relationship between the first part and second part. Okay, we can finish early.
Thank you.
Good night to everything. Thank you all.
Thank you.
תודה.